11:05. I think we should start by now. We thought of waiting for some more people to join, but I think we already have 61 plus, and few more will be joining subsequently. Yeah. So just to give you a short introduction about this webinar is to introduce 3D printing and to explain its prospects in healthcare. So we have a very eminent panel today who are experts in their in particularly in medical and healthcare, and also in 3D printing. So Future School is organizing this webinar along with AIIMS Bhubaneswar and CASE, which is Kerala Academy for Skill Excellence, is also a partner. So the context is Future Schoolz is into training and education. Mainly, we are an organization who is serving as a finishing school for print and media industry. That's our specialization. But along with that, we are also focusing on futuristic technology like 3D printing and printed electronics, which has wide-ranging applications in medical and especially in healthcare. So that's a context we have been into this area. We are also conducting courses, training, seminars, and consultancy in areas of 3D printing. That's our one of the specialized area. Along with that, AIIMS Bhubaneswar is I don't need to introduce AIIMS Bhubaneswar, as you all know. So we have jointly came together to introduce 3D printing as a futuristic technology which can make a lot of inroads into and development into healthcare, especially in India. So that's a context. So I'm handing over this session to today's moderator, Dr. Jawahar, who is the HOD of AIIMS Bhubaneswar, and is also the Joint Superintendent of Hospital Administration for the AIIMS Bhubaneswar. Yeah, welcome, Dr. Jawahar.
Good morning and greetings from AIIMS Bhubaneswar. Good morning to all of you, the panel of speakers, and all the guests that we have joined today. It is my great fortune to have a program on 3D printing, the application in medical science today in collaboration with this Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute for Medical Sciences of Technology and also Future Schoolz. As we all know, AIIMS Bhubaneswar is a institute of national importance established by the government of India under the Pradhan Mantri Swasthya Suraksha Yojana. And we have a department of hospital administration for the last 2 years. And this institute has been built up for the last 8 years. And we have been doing excellently in academic research and healthcare, attracting around 4,000 OPDs and around 700 and odd inpatients per day, conducting the major surgeries in 40 specialties are there, and the achievement is that the proof of the pudding is in eating, and as per the latest AIIMS PG exam, our graduate student topped the entrance exam. So that's the credibility that we have established in the academics. And as we know, Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute for Medical Science and Technology, where I was working there for last 20 years, is a pioneer in research and development in medical devices in India, and is under the Department of Science and Technology. They have also started some activities on 3D printing. And Mr. Pradeep, our CEO of the Future Schoolz, is a good friend of mine, and I have found him passionate in this printing technology. He has been involved with this government of Kerala printing department, later became an entrepreneur, and he has been as a faculty researcher and collaborator, connector for many activities in this printing technology. So we all know that we are in a corona arena, and we are all struggling. But at the very same time, there is a silver lining where the country as a whole has stood up to this challenge, and the consumables and medical devices, this PPE mask, we have started manufacturing in larger, frame, and there is a rejuvenation and vigor with this for the industry. And we also suffered some foreign attacks. So there is a double boosting, one boosting with the corona and another boosting with the foreign attack, and another the triple boosting has come with the government investing in the MSME to a great extent. So I think there is a great environment for this manufacturing sector today in India, and the government of India has come out with the Atmanirbhar Bharat. And in this context, the introduction of this topic of 3D printing in medical technology, medical science is relevant today. So it is one of the disruptive technologies, and the 3D printing is a cost-effective means of creating the customized and tailor-made solutions in various fields, including the medical science. And with regard to the medical science, the applications range from planning of various procedures like surgical planning, the development of prostheses, whether in dental, orthopedics, neurosurgery, or plastic surgery, maxillofacial surgery, etc., etc., and the medical education and training, medical research, printing of organs. Actually, we all heard about only printing when about this printing in paper, and now we are into 3D and printing of organs. So, I mean, it's one of the economical way of bringing up various organs for implantation in humans. And another application in drug delivery. So I think there are varieties of applications, and we have various eminent speakers today. We are starting with an introduction by Mr. Pradeep, who is a passionate technologist. He has been associated with 3D printing, training, prototyping, and who has actually received training from Netherlands on 3D printing. He will be introducing the topic of 3D printing. Welcome, Mr. Pradeep, to this session.
Yeah. Thank you, Doctor.
Next, we have another Mr. Dilip. He is actually the CEO of 3D printing in India, and he heads 3 subsidiary systems in India. And he will be talking on the applications of 3D printing in healthcare. Welcome, Mr. Dilip, to this program. Followed by Dr. Saumil Vadoria. He is working with the Birmingham University and on a funded project on formulation of 3D printing. Can I have Dr. Saumil? Hello.
Hello.
Yeah,
thank you very much for the introduction.
Yeah. So, I mean, he will be talking on the various materials which are available for 3D printing. And then we have Mr. Vinod Kumar. He is an engineer by profession, and he is working as a scientist at Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute for Medical Science and Technology, Trivandrum, who is having a healthcare wing and also a biomedical technology wing. He is with the biomedical technology wing and working with various medical devices like cardiopulmonary support, ventricular assist devices, blood pumps, oxygenators, hemoconcentrator, etc. So he will be discussing some of the case studies of 3D printing which are relevant to Sri Chitra Trivandrum. So my role is again to welcome Mr. Vinod to this forum. Welcome, Mr. Vinod.
Thank you, Dr. Jawahar.
Yeah. So my role is to introduce you to this medical fraternity. I have actually, messaged this program to the various hospital administrators across the country, and also the panel of NABH assessors who are also in various parts of the country, and also to the institutes like AIIMS, PGI, JIPMAR, and various other private institutions. So let me welcome all of you. We will start the talk by Mr. Pradeep. Yes, Pradeep.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Okay, good morning, all. As we said by Dr. Jawahar, I am expertise in printing technology. So in printing technology, we are aware about that. It is a methodology of transferring ink to ink on paper. It is really a 2D technology. But I am sure that we are living in an age, industry revolution 4.0, where technology integration is the basement of all the technological innovations. And also it will be the future for the industry and for the society as a whole. And as a technologist, it is my duty to integrate to find out the possibilities for integration of various technologies in a common platform. So Future School is really a platform where we are trying to integrate various technologies for the future generation. So as a printing technologist, I am trying to incorporate these other technologies like the futuristic technologies like 3D printing and also the printed electronics in a platform where we can integrate all these technologies together. So based on that, I have concentrated on 3D printing and I visited many places and I am familiar with many technologies and I am trying to incorporate all these things on a common platform. So we are aware that 3D printing, it is a technology by which we are making some three-dimensional solid objects. It is definitely from a digital file. So 3D printing, it is an advanced manufacturing process. So whatever may be your digital file, it may be in CAM, card, or it may be in 2D image. So that can be converted into a 3D file and it should be converted into a physical part. It is by deposit. In printing, we are transferring actually dots of a digital file to a paper, to the surface of paper. But we are adding that dots together. Definitely, it will become a 3D object. So normally the printing is a 2D process. But if you are adding dots one over other, definitely it makes a 3D object. So that is in printing also, we have a designing unit. In 3D printing also, it have a designing unit. In printing also, there is a transferring of image. In 3D printing also, there is a transferring of image. In printing, it is very important after the production quality control. In 3D printing also, quality control has an important role. In printing, we are very conscious with the color management. In 3D printing also, it is now very essential, the basic understanding of color management. So this is the we found very close relation in between normal printing and 3D printing. So we are in 3D printing, we are depositing, we are adding different layers one over other and creating a 3D object on that contains different types of material That also can be possible. So it is the opposite of subtractive manufacturing. That is also important. In subtractive manufacturing, we are removing or we are cutting out the hollowing out of piece of material or plastic. But in 3D printing, it is just adding the material one over other. So 3D printing, it is the most rapidly evolving technology in various technologies. And you are aware that in Industry Revolution 4.0, the peculiarity of that particular industry revolution is decompartmentalization of industries. So in decompartmentalization of industries, 3D printer has a major role to perform, whatever may be the industrial branch. In medical research and medical industry, this 3D printing has a very important and potential role. I am sure that it transforms the healthcare industry in a very prosperous direction. So we are aware about that there are many types of 3D printing. It includes stereolithography SLA and selective layer sintering SLS and fused deposition method FDS and digital light process DLP and multi-jet fusion method, that is MJF, polyjet technology and direct metal laser sintering technology DMLS and electron beam melting technology. And apart from that, some other branches also like binder jetting and also laminator object manufacturing. It is in accordance with the requirement what we have. And definitely in 3D printing, what is the requirement? That has an important role in application. And in case of material also, what is the application? That has an important role. So it is an interesting story of Tilly Loki, who lost both hands due to meningitis. A decade later, Tilly made headliness as she received new hands created with a 3D printer. So it was the world's first clinical trial of a new type of prosthesis within NHS Bristol. So just we want to go through the history of 3D printing in health science. We are aware that the founder of 3D technology was done by Charles Duckhull, the founder and managing director of 3D systems and the boss of Mr. Dilip. So he found the technology, he invented the technology, stereolithography, during the time 1984. In 1996, Dr. Gabor Forgas. So he was a co-founder and theoretical physicist and chief scientific officer of Fork and Goody Incorporation. And he was the founder of Modern Bedo Incorporation and also a very famous company called Organova in New York City. And this Organova, it has a very prestigious history, and they invented bioprinting and application of drug manufacturing. And the first time they invented the manufacturing of therapeutic tissues. So he, Dr. Gabor Forgas, he tried to stick together the cells, and it was a success. And during 2000, Andrew Bowden, actually he was an assistant professor and he of Stanford University, and he, from the endoscopy images, he tried to create some urinary bladder augmentation. 2003, this is Mr. Thomas J. Bernard. He is from Clemson University. He modified, actually a normal HP printer, HP inkjet printer, normal what we are using in our home purposes, desktop printer. He modified that HP desktop printer, DeskJet printer. It is not a desktop printer, it is a DeskJet printer. That means liquid ink is using in that one. He modified that equipment. It is a thermal inkjet printer, and he tried to dispense biological tissues or liquids through the printer by using a to make a fibrin scaffold. In 2018, a British expat, he received a first fully 3D printed prosthetic leg that was happened in UAE, and it is just 12 years back. She lost his leg during an accident, horse riding accident. That was in 2008. In 2009, the famous company Organova, that was created and founded by Dr. Gaber Forgas. So what he made is, he actually changed a science fiction into a science fact. And it was the first world commercial 3D bioprinter he developed that print human tissues. So that was a wonderful experiment what he made in 2009. 2010 again, Organova creates world first cellular 3D bioprinted liver. So that was also a history. In 2001, it was in Netherlands, a lower jaw from titanium powder, and that was fitted to 82 years old lady, and that was done by a biomedical research institute at Hasselt University, Belgium. And in 2012, it was a wonderful development. It was a drug sponge by absorbent polymer filled in a vein that carries blood flowing out from a target organ, the liver, that was affected by liver cancer. Actually, it preventing the poisoning to other organs. And it was done by Nitish Balsara, a professor and Chemical and Biomedical University of California. In 2014, Dr. Oliver Pages, a French thoracic surgeon and cancer specialist, he invented and reproducing a rib cage. In 2015, it is actually the first printed medicine for epilepsy. That medicine was designed, discovered, developed by Aprecia Pharmacy with their proprietary SIP dose technology with a fast melting material. In 2017, it was done by University of Medical Center, Utrecht, Netherlands. Printed and installed a skull to a 22-year patient who suffered from continuous thickening of skull. And also during the period of 2019 January, Mr. Samuel Joseph implanted a novel 3D printed titanium spinal device into a patient to correct his spinal problem. That was history. So what is the scene in India and what is the scene in globally for the 3D printed market? So 3D printing still, definitely it is still in fancy, but it is positive impact is already felt in all of the industrial areas. So now major companies like HP, Reliance World, so many companies, they still installed their company. So it is a wonderful thing. And also the medical 3D printing. So you can see, I am not explaining more. The time is very precious for us. So see the importance of different various technologies here. Dental implant, prosthetics, hearing aids, surgical gates, medical components. So each and everything has its own importance and its own growth in this field. See, the dental 3D printing market is most mature now, and it is most accurate, and the printer speed is very high also now. So this is a trend. So why this slide? It is because it will explain you what are the segments in which the 3D printing is in fast generation, developing in a fast speed. This is in cardiac surgery, interventional cardiology, gastroenterology, and also neurosurgery, orthopedic surgery, reconstructive surgery, surgical oncology, and transplant surgery. Every field, it is gradually improving and increasing the utilities of 3D printing. So medical device market, it is a very important in the background of Make in India. So fourth largest market in Asia for medical devices is India itself. We have a import market. The 80% of the medical devices are import to India. So according to Make in India data, the medical device industry in India is presently valued $5.2 billion and contribute 4 to 5% of the 96.7 billion Indian healthcare industry. This is the valid point. See, the expected growth of various segments in India as per the Make in India concept. So this is the data available in Make in India. So this is a scenario. So I will be a little bit speed. So it leads to personalized care. Clinicians can provide highly customized treatment to their patients. There are 6 important areas for 3D printing. 3D printing labs in hospital, low-cost prosthetics, customized medical implant, customized protective device and aids, biomaterials for organ structure and complex organs, 3D printed drugs delivery. So it is very simple. 3D printing lab in hospitals, medical 3D printing service at the point of care. That is important. It enables clinicians and 3D visualization and improved clinical outcomes. It can convert the data from CT or MRI scans into any physical part. It can help you to create models that should be clinically accurate replicas of the patient's anatomy without having any change. It provides the clinicians with a 3D visualization of the patient condition. So low-cost prosthetics, it is a very important area. So the end users always will be hospitals, dental clinics, specialty clinics, and others. Most of the products are like orthopedic prosthetics, dental prosthetics, and other areas. I am not mentioning each and every branches. So other area is 3D printed drugs. It definitely reshaped the pharma world. 3D printed drugs. So it was also a history. I explained to you. The world's first 3D printer for production of personalized medicines. So doctors can prescribe medicine personalized to any patient. So 9,000 people die in US in every year due to the wrong prescriptions. The risk of choking by children is another risk. So that can be eliminated by using 3D printed drugs. Especially for children, we can make wonderful medicines for them. 3D printed drugs benefits. It is a tailored drug dosing. It is strictly personalized medication. Unique dosage forms. Drug release profiles that can also be managed. It is an important thing is orphan drugs. Treat rare diseases that are sometimes not developed by the pharmaceutical industry due to its economic reason, 4,000 and 5,000 such diseases are still last year, according to the last year statistics, it comes around 4,000 to 5,000 such diseases. And it expedite clinical trial processes. So a doctor can look at and practice on customized 3D printed model prior to surgery. So what the benefit? Then we potentially have a better surgical outcome. That was a reality. That is also a reality. Justin Ryan, Phoenix Children's Hospital, claimed for that. So it is a wonderful thing, innovation 3D printing. The electronic skin in store energy in electrically powered prosthetics. So wonderful, wonderful discovery. So we can print the skin with the electronic energy that can store electronic energy that can be controlled by our thinkings. So whatever may be your thinkings, according to that pulse, that cell working, that stored with the electronic energy. So electronic skin already developed to generate and store electricity for prosthetic devices. Innovation in 3D printing. So growing applications in tissue engineering and biomedical field, bioinks. So Saumil will explain you about that in detail. Biocompatible implant to transform cell physiology. It overcome limitations in biocompatible implant and prosthetics. So rapid prototyping resulting in accuracy of prosthetic restorations, prosthetic arms, limbs that are adaptive and mimic near neutral functions of the human body parts. So it is a wonderful of the present COVID-19 period. The ventilators and valve, the first one is developed by 3D printing system in Italy. So I am sure that Dilip will explain you in detail regarding this one. And also some Googles, safety Googles. So this period, the Corona period, it is a valid statement, because whenever the necessary comes, this 3D printing machine can develop any of the equipment what they need for the industry. And third one is also, it is a very important one for the Corona period, COVID-19 period. That is mask, shields. And homologic uses of 3D printing to prototype COVID-19 test kits also the present day scenario that compete with any circumstances, any critical time requirement that can be manufactured by using 3D printed machines. So this is also, and this is also two important stories what we've seen for the past 2-3 weeks. So the last one is also, I am sure that Vinod will cover all these portions. So I am not telling anything regarding the artificial manual breathing unit developed by Sri Chitra Institute. So biomaterial for organ structure and complex organs that can be for a small molecule or compound, or it may be with the polymer or micromolecules, or it may be with the cells, tissues, organs, or at least maximum organism itself. So different levels of material existing in the human body can be created and can be developed, can be produced, can be printed by using 3D printing systems. So, and see, these are the organ manufacturing areas: organ transplantation, tissue science and engineering, material processing technologies, 3D bioprinting and combined molds, drug screening and delivery. So all these relationship related to organ manufacturing include 3-dimensional 3D bioprinting methodology. So see here, process in 3D printing, it is definitely, there should be a planning similar to printing. And we can have a design either by design itself or from the scanning devices. We make a prototype and we print it, inspect it, and we can use it. So what is to learn? Design software we want to learn. 3D scanning and conversion to design, it is a need. So what material, as a suitability of material and its usage. So the color, that is also important, especially in skin. So match with the existing color of the skin. That is also important. There comes the role of color management. So definitely quality inspection, how it can be done. And what should be the printing technique and what will be the type of printers. Definitely the process, application, technology in 3D printing also very crucial for the manufacturing of whatever may be the product you have. I am sure that we are so close. Then, but even then, yet so far. But out of all limitations, I am sure that it comes creativity. The creativity has a very important role for any of the creation in 3D printing. So whatever may be the queries, you can have the right to contact us for support and services. Thank you very much. Hello.
Yes, hello.
Yeah,
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
start.
yeah, okay, excellent. So thank you for the nice introduction, Pradeep. Let me share my screen. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm the managing director for 3D Systems India. So I head all operations in India. And I'll just, so here my presentation is a more of a workflow which shows you how exactly 3D printing, 3D scanning can be used in the entire workflow in the healthcare segment. So just a couple of slides about my company first. So this is the man that Pradeep mentioned first, Chuck Hull. He invented 3D printing in 1983, and this is him now accepting one of the many lifetime achievement awards which he has got. This is the first part ever printed on this planet. It's a cup. It's still there with him. Now he founded 3D Systems and actually started the entire industry. We were founded in '86. We are around 2,600 employees worldwide. We are present directly and indirectly in 86 countries, and these are the industries that we support. There are other smaller industries like jewelry, jigs and fixtures, and casting as well. But healthcare, dental, aerospace, automotive, and durable goods are the main proper verticals which we have dedicated focus on. So this presentation will be about healthcare. So this is a picture that I'll be coming back to throughout the presentation. So this whole thing starts with digital medical imaging. So you need a scan of the patient, of his organ, or the part that's infected. After that, you get into you have to take that image and then process it, because that is in 2D, and it's normally in a grayscale kind of an environment, like this here you can see. After you process it, then you can plan the surgeries, and then you can do the design of the implants or the 3D printed part that you want to print, like surgical guide. Then you get into 3D printing, and then you can design the implants or the surgical guide. Then you get into 3D printing, and then you can print the
Dilip, we are not hearing you. I think a connection is lost. Just wait. Dilip will be coming back. Yeah, Dilip.
Hello,
Yeah.
am I audible?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
know.
yeah, audible.
Something just happened. Zoom just
You
kind of
need,
crashed on me. I don't know why.
yeah, can
So
you
I'll
again?
just restart. I shall share my screen now.
Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I apologize. So I was talking about the workflow. So let's start with the first part, which is the imaging. These are the kind of equipment which used to do the scans. So we'll get to the next part, which is the image processing. Normally, when you get this DICOM data, you need to process it using a specialized software. So we have a product called the D2P. It actually stands for DICOM to print. What this does, it basically takes the 2D data and makes a 3D kind of a model out of it. And that you can use it to send it to a 3D printer if you want to print a medical part, or you can use it using VR devices, virtual reality, as you can see this doctor doing, and then go and inspect a virtual image of it as if it's in front of your eyes. I'll play a short video which shows you the process. I will be skipping through the video so that you get an idea, because some of these videos can be a little long. This is a 3D model. And the software is able to find out what is a bone, what is a soft tissue, what is a teeth. This is a doctor observing the 3D model using a VR system. And this is the same file which is being the 3D printed. This doctor is explaining to the patient. Okay, so after that, it comes to a next step that's called virtual surgical planning. So as a company, we have got a medical division that deals with this. So we have got engineers and biomedical engineers and also doctors who work with other doctors across the world and plan their cases. So we have certain services. This one is called VSP Orthognatics. This is linked to the corrective jaw surgery. So basically what happens is that the doctor sends us the DICOM data, our team processes it, and then offers a complete plan back along with the 3D printed parts and the designs that the doctor will need to perform the surgery. The benefit of this is that the doctor gets proper cutting guides so that he can do the operation easily and accurately. This is another service that we offer. It's called VSP Cranial. This is linked to operations linked for craniofacial surgery. Uh, a video will be a good way to explain this. So all these parts you see have been 3D printed, and the doctor has printed each part. So the surgeon will be performed using the surgical guides accurately, and this is planned by him. This is a 3D printed model. There is another service we offer called VSP Reconstruction. This is basically whenever you have a problem with the jaw, like say a cancer or or something, as you know, one part of the leg, I mean, one bone of the leg is used is taken from the patient itself, and then it is cut up in bits and then actually put together to like fashion the jaw and then maybe have an implant over it. So what we offer is the cutting guide to cut the jaw first properly at the right place accurately. Then we also give a cutting guide to cut the bone in the right way so that it is planned properly, and then everything goes back into place. This is the entire kit that we give the doctors. Here's an example. This was the case. The green parts here are where the cuts are done. This is the plan, and then this is where the bone from the leg is added and a jaw is fashioned. And these are the kind of guides that we give. All these are 3D printed using a biocompatible material. This green part you see is a medical implant made on titanium. That's also 3D printed. This is a case of a young boy in Africa who picked up a landmine and it exploded.
Blessing out of his curiosity, picked up a detonator and
see from here to there. We're going to take a special 3D X-ray, and then we actually virtually like this. It saves a huge amount.
I love them.
A little hard to believe.
Yeah.
It's all right.
After the operation, maybe this can happen. We have another service called Joy in a Day. This is like a variant of the other service, where in one single operation itself we do the complete rehabilitation of the dental parts and also the jaw. This pink stuff that you can see here, this is also 3D printed. So we have a printer where we can overcure the material using more laser power. What that does is you can have a complete 3D scan and you can highlight some parts of the model which you want to overcure. This is very useful to understand how the ingrowth is there and where the cancer is there or where other things are there. There's another service we offer called VSP Trauma, which is meant for complex fracture surgeries. These are normally in case of accidents when it's not one fracture, it is very complicated. So now let's come to a discipline wherein it's called haptic design. So when you want to design an implant or a cutting guide, you cannot use normal CAD software like SolidWorks, because that's where that software you draw lines and arcs and curves, and a human body is not made up of lines and arcs and curves. You need to use some kind of sculpting software. So this is a software that we have. It's called Freeform Plus. It is used for organic modeling, and I'll show you a small video which explains it. Coupled with that, we also have a haptic device called TouchX. Now, haptic is what? This is basically like a pen which moves in space in X, Y, and Z. And when the pen, that's the cursor, hits a particular object on the screen, you get a feedback on the pen, as if you're actually sculpting. Okay, so this is very good when you understand how to do organic modeling, because you don't move things by 2 mm or 2.5 mm. You move things as per the need. And you will see this is the UI of the software, and this is a video which shows you how it works. I'll skip to this video as well in the interest of time, but this is the place where the implant needs to be made. It needs to be designed. So we use tools to give it an organic shape. Okay, I will skip. And this is the implant, which is now made smooth. So this will finally be printed. So let's come to the next step, which is actually the act of 3D printing. Now here, there are wide variety of printers that we have with a wide variety of materials as well. So one basic need at times is just to see just to print anatomical models, just to understand what the problem is, because often doctors need to open up the patient and then understand that, oh, what we saw on the CT scan was not this, it is that actually. So when you have a 3D model which you can look and see precisely what the problems are, or which areas you need to I'm getting messages here. Are there questions which you want me to answer in between, or should I take questions at the end?
At the end, sir, that is good.
At the end?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, sounds good. So this is used in pre-surgical planning to also understand how the screws can be placed inside, choosing which kind of instruments that you need. Also, the nice thing about this is that the material used here is actually gypsum powder, which is solidified using a binder. This is nice because it actually acts like bone. So sometimes doctors use these parts to actually practice operations using real surgical tools. So this is also quite helpful. Here are a few slides that show you examples. So this is the input that comes from the CT scan. We run it through a software called DTP, which I explained earlier. And then you end up with a 3D model that you can print. Another example. Another example. This is a very interesting case. So 10 years ago, there was this case of conjoined twins. And as you know, the doctors normally need to take a call, which kid should live and which kid can't live. That is because they have to split up the internal organs in such a way that one kid gets a higher chance of a survival. Now, these doctors worked with our team, and we actually printed many models for them, very intricate, detailed models. And the doctors took a decision based on the data that we gave them, that they can save both the kids. And what happened was that we also printed extra models for them to practice the surgery. So they practiced it for many hours, and then finally in the end, they could save both the kids. They just celebrated their 10th birthday, and they are both actually running around the house now. This is a video about them.
2002.
I'll just skip in the
And
interest of time.
Sacrificing the
as a mother, you more, and they were separated. So now,
as most young boys
They
should do,
still need-
they
need to
still
wear a
need
helmet in the
intensive medical. Really, one of those
Just lying around now.
uplifting miracles.
Another nice thing is that 3D printing can also be used for patient education. So there are sometimes you can't get like the ready-made models to show certain part of an anatomy. You can do the design of your own, or basically take a real live case and then print the model out and then teach either the student or the patient, as you saw in the earlier video. So we can print surgical guides like how I explained earlier. This is a real case that we did. Another use for surgical guides is when you want to do implants. So this is a titanium implant that needs to go over this bone end, and the cuts need to be perfect because this is already printed. So we can print a surgical guide that helps you cut the bone properly, so that when the implant comes in, it fits perfectly fine. Now, when it comes to implants, titanium is the material that is used. And as you can see over here, these are the kind of implants that can be printed. So normal implants are made in titanium, but they're machined. using a CNC machine. Now, a CNC machine can't build something as complicated as this. Only a 3D printer can, and this actually results in very good osseointegration. Osseointegration, as you know, is the process of the bone getting fused with the implant so that the implant doesn't break off and fail. So this is possible only in 3D printing, and more uh, people are opting to choose 3D printed implants for this reason. This is a spinal cage. This is also the spinal cage. This is a very interesting case. As you can see, this is a screw, but the screw is also hollow. Okay. Now the reason for that is the weakest part of an implant is not actually the implant, because that's titanium. It is strong. The weakest part of an implant is actually where the implant is secured to the bone, and by what? That's a screw. So often the implants don't break, but the part where they are secured to the bone, that part fails, and that's a screw. So now using 3D printing, we can print screws which offer themselves to osseointegration. So the bone goes into the screw as well, and then it becomes a much harder joint. This is a titanium implant that is patient specific. This is part of a hip implant. So as you can see, using 3D printing, you can ape natural structures that are there in the human body and get extremely good osseointegration. So one thing that many people don't know is that, okay, so they look at my company 3D Systems as a manufacturer of 3D printers. Now, what they don't know is actually we are the largest contract manufacturer of 3D printed implants in the world. So we have 2 manufacturing facilities in Belgium and in the US. And so far, we have printed 1 million medical implants in the world. So it means that there are more than 1 million people walking the face of this planet with a 3D printed implant printed by our company for our customers, obviously. So this is not the future. This is the past. And from here, it is just going to get more and more adopted. So one very important tool you need when you design these implants is a software that can make these volumetric and surface lattice structures. So we have a product called as 3D Expert, and you can see this dialog box here. It is completely parametric, meaning you can choose how many nodes you want, what's the distance, what kind of a structure you want, and then choose a volume and then fill it up, and then you can print and test it. If it is not good, all you need to do is come back to the software, change a few values over here, and then you get a new design here. So this makes iteration extremely fast. You can do a volumetric lattice for the bone to go inside. Also, you can do a surface lattice for the bone to go around. So these are, like I said, these are good for lightweighting and also better osseointegration.
With new ideas, there is a need for new technologies to deliver more. More innovation, more originality, more customer success. In healthcare, medical device manufacturing is pushing into new, innovative solutions for better surgical outcomes. And 3D Systems is the place where your medical device ideas become a reality. With world-class medical device development experts, assisted by leading-edge 3D printers and software, and fully certified production facilities in the US and Europe, serving medical device companies worldwide. We bring the understanding, knowledge, and expertise to bring your 3D printed medical device projects to life. Our people know.
Another application is also orthopedic braces. So in fact, at AIIMS Rishikesh, we have got one of these printers which are actually printing these braces, personalized braces for patients. So if you can see, if you get a fracture, one way is to have a cast, and then that is extremely uncomfortable. Another way is to scan the body part and then design a personalized brace which can solve the problem. This is best explained with this kind of an example. This is the traditional orthopedic brace. It's not 3D printed. As you can see, this is a brace to correct the posture of the patient. And imagine wearing this to office every day. How is that going to work? I mean, this is going to be very uncomfortable, right? But with 3D printing, the brace can look like this. There is no need to wear it inside the clothes. You can wear it even outside. I mean, it's like a piece of fashion, but it does the job. So this is done using our SLS printers. This is a 3D printed exoskeleton. This lady was paralyzed from the neck down, and what happened was we worked with an electronics company. They made the exoskeleton, and we scanned her, and then printed SLS parts that fit her, that fit her body perfectly. And using the exoskeleton, she was able to walk again. I'll play the video, but I'll skip, which shows the patient. Another application is in the line of clear aligners. So there are dental braces which are used to straighten teeth. We worked with a company called Invisalign, wherein they have a factory of our 3D printers, like a lot of them, and they print dental models. Enough of dental model sets for a patient, maybe 10 sets or say 12 sets, which have got the position of the teeth slightly changed. And then they use those models to thermoform a plastic sheet, which looks like a brace, but it is completely transparent. So this way, every week, the patient takes and uses a new brace, and by the end of the treatment, the teeth are straightened. So nobody even knows that the person is actually wearing a brace. So this is the concept of clear aligners, and that is only possible due to 3D printing. Now, as Pradeep mentioned, we took part in the fight against COVID. So one of our printers, Figure 4, was used to print medical grade parts like nasal swabs, ventilator splitters. These are venturi valves. These are ventilator couplers. This material is sterilizable and also autoclavable. So this is the best material to print medical parts. And we have helped many hospitals with these parts, and the fight is ongoing. The fight is not over. So let's talk about another side of our business. It's not linked to 3D printing. It is linked to surgical simulation. It uses 3D data, but I'll just skip through. I'll just skip through these slides quickly. We make virtual reality simulators, which help the surgeons actually practice operations and procedures in a tactile way. This is a simulator to work on the spine. So these slides are not linked to 3D printing, so I'll just skip to them. This is robotics. This has got a video, which I'll just play so that you get an idea of what I'm talking about. This is all done by virtual reality. This is how the students or doctors can actually practice, and they get the real feel of the anatomy as they use the tools. The GI, the bronch, pelvic, waist, and the top. So the end result of all this is something called as personalized surgery, because this is what happens. So this is the patient. And what you see in this box over here is a package that comes from our company to the hospital. This package contains the 3D printed parts, say cutting guides, maybe implants, and proper instructions with labels of what the doctor should do. Now, the reason this is important is because, you know, an inexperienced doctor in Africa is able or might be able to perform a same kind of a complicated surgery as a very experienced doctor in say Mumbai or say New York. And that is because he's given the tools, or technology has been used to make his life easier, make lesser mistakes, and not get surprised when he opens up the patient. And all this is possible mainly because of 3D printing. So what we offer as a company is a complete end-to-end solution for healthcare, apart from the CT scan, but the software. So just to recap, the software to take the DICOM data and make a 3D model, the software to do organic modeling, the hardware that helps in the organic modeling, the software that makes or helps you make the implants and the complicated structures that take the benefit of 3D printing. Then we offer a range of the printers to do the printing. And finally, the end result is models. These can be display models, study models, actual braces, or implants. So we offer complete head-to-toe applications from class 1 to class 3 as well. So why 3D systems, right? So we have around 30 years of experience in 3D printing. We started the industry. We have, like I said, printed 1 million medical implants so far. There are 10,000 surgeons trained. There are 75,000 surgical cases that we have planned along with surgeons. 2,800 simulators have been installed, and we have got a lot of patents. So I'd like to end with this. So I can stop sharing my screen and maybe look at the questions that are there.
Jafar Doctor, you can unmute and talk. Yeah, actually, I think we'll take the questions together in the end.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, thank you. Very good talk. We have actually very nice experience of the medical applications of 3D printing. We will move to the, thank you very much, Mr. Dilip. We'll go to the next speaker, who is Dr. Saumil. Saumil is there?
Yes.
Yeah, please, welcome.
Yes. So just a moment. Sorry, I don't know what happened. Yeah, I'll share my screen now.
Yeah.
Yes, can everyone see the presentation?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, you can go to the slide view. Right.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I'm Saumil, and I work as a research fellow, postdoctoral research fellow in School of Chemical Engineering at University of Birmingham. We work on a multi-university project in which we develop formulations for 3D printing. So if you consider 3D printers as a car, we design the fuel that goes in it. So we develop formulations for pharmaceutical, personal care, and edible applications. Whenever we talk about 3D printing, the first thing, the first advantages that come to mind are the customizability and manufacturing of novel and complex structures, which are simply not possible using conventional manufacturing methods. And that's what everyone talks about when discussing the benefits of 3D printing. But these are only macroscopic benefits of 3D printing, and that manifest themselves in what the eyes can see. But that's not even the whole story. There are microscopic advantages of 3D printing as well. as in they influence the microstructure of what you're printing. So just the way you can customize several shapes and sizes for personalized for a particular patient, you can also personalize or customize the microstructure that goes into that part. For example, if you're loading active components such as drugs or cells or growth factors or nutrients, you can customize from one part to the other. So it's not only the macroscopic shape that you can customize, but you can also customize what you put into that material, and also the microstructure of the material at the microscopic levels, not quite at the atomic level, but at the levels of a few hundreds of microns, a few tens of microns. And even in the novelty and complexity of the structures, of course, you can get macroscopic structures, made in a novel fashion using 3D printing, but you can also do such innovation for microstructure. For example, you can create novel microstructures that had never been created before. For example, you can create a whole network of microcapsules inside your object that wasn't really possible using conventional techniques. So the benefits of 3D printing are more than what meets the eye. They're not only macroscopic, but also what we can't see at microscopic level. And the realization of these is done by careful fine-tuning of what you print and how you print, i.e. choosing the right technique and the right material to print. In healthcare, of course, the speakers before me have discussed a wide range of applications of additive manufacturing in healthcare. And among these, there are these applications that require that among the other parts or the other factors related to the material, the mechanical strength of the material is by far the most important property for some of the applications. For example, limb prosthetics or hearing aids or exoskeletons. You need mechanical strength as the most important property, and normal plastics such as polylactic acid or acrylonitrile butyryl styrene are used to give the structural strength. For example, you can see that one of the prosthetics that is here is not fully 3D printed. It's almost 3D printed, but there are non-3D printed components in it as well. So it's sort of hybrid part that partly uses 3D printed components and partly uses non-3D printed components as well. Mr. Dilip Menzies has discussed in great length about the implants. So for orthopedic and dental implants, of course, titanium is the most widely used material, but there are also other alloys which are used. Again, the question here is of mechanical strength. That's the single most important parameter in the choice of this, along with the compatibility and everything. And the same goes for anatomical models, which are used for planning or teaching surgery, but also surgical instruments, 3D printed surgical instruments have been made, which can be used in inaccessible parts of the world, and some of them have even been trialed for future space trips or something. Or just imagine a remote part of a village in India where a certain surgical instrument isn't available, and if they have a 3D printer, they can make a customized or quickly produce a surgical instrument of their choice. And you can also make customized 3D printed surgical instruments that specifically do the job for the patient. And the good thing about it is that if they're all autoclavable, and they can be disinfected in an efficient way. You also have 3D printed stents, which are not quite 3D printed, but have been aided by 3D printing. So you can often prepare a negative mold of a stent using 3D printing, and then use that to inject or cast your material into that mold to make a stent. So it's not directly manufactured by additive manufacturing, but it's sort of indirectly aided by it. So again, in all these applications, one of the main parameters of importance is the mechanical strength of that material, and you've got UV curable resins and other polymers such as polycaprolactam, as well as various plastics and metals for this application. We now move on to applications where the parameter with an increased importance is the microstructure of the product. Of course, there has to be a certain level of mechanical strength, but in these applications, the main parameter is what is inside these 3D printed components that gives them, makes them suitable for the application. So one of those applications is tissue engineering, where in a hydrogel medium, you 3D print a shape made of stem cells that could be further cultivated into an organ or a component of an organ. You also have oral drug delivery, in which you can either make customized or even non-customized medicines, or pills with which are loaded by the active pharmaceutical compound, and that have a specific microstructure that either aids the delivery of that particular drug, or you can incorporate more than one drugs into one single pill in a customized way, so that the patient adherence to the drug, to the intake of the drug, is greater, because they only have to take one pill, and you can even adjust them in a way that drug one gets released at a particular time, followed by drug 2 after a few hours. So you can even engineer that. And we also have implantable drug delivery. What you can see here is an intrauterine drug delivery device to be implanted inside the body. So for these applications, of course, mechanical strength is necessary, but the microstructure, i.e. what goes within that component, is also necessary. The reason why that microstructure is important is because the active components that you put within your 3D printed part, which can be either cells or growth factors in case of tissue engineering, or drug molecules in case of drug delivery, need to be have physical chemical compatibility, or with the surrogate matrix, and also biological compatibility with the surrogate matrix. So that essentially means that if you're printing a tissue using stem cells, the gel or the medium that you use for the cells to be embedded within that has to be compatible biologically and mechanically with the cells. And same goes with drug molecules. The matrix has to dissolve or incorporate the drugs in a way that can be released later on. Also, in case of tissue engineering, the matrix that you're putting has to have textural similarity with the tissues that it is temporarily replacing. For example, if you are printing components of a liver, or if you are making, let's say, heart valves, then it has to have textural similarity with the tissues that it is intended to replace. And of course, it has to have sufficient mechanical strength. It also needs to have the sort of porosity and pore structure, what we refer to as micropores, so that it can sufficiently access physiological fluids, for example, blood or plasma, or in case of oral drug delivery, gastric fluids. So the fluids actually have to reach within the component for an exchange of nutrients or active molecules that to occur. Of course, the matrix has to respond to external stimuli within the body, for example, temperature or pH or ionic strength, or the presence of bodily enzyme, because you want to use those external stimuli as a trigger for releasing or disintegrating the active component. For example, you have a 3D printed oral tablet that which you want to release the drug in a particular part of your gastrointestinal tract. So what you do is you identify the correct pH in that part of the GI tract, and you engineer the material of your pill in such a way that at that pH, the entire matrix of that pill starts disintegrating, and the active drug molecule that you have embedded within it starts releasing. So same goes to temperature as well as ionic strength, which is the salt concentration as well as the presence of bodily enzymes. So they act as triggers for your release or for triggering of the application of your printed component. So the matrix that you design has to have the appropriate response to that external stimuli. Also, what you need is the materials in that matrix should be biodegradable, with non-cytotoxic and easily extruded by the body byproducts. So of course, you don't want anything toxic going within your body, and also nothing that later turns toxic when it disintegrates at a later stage. To further explain the importance of microstructure, I'll give you an example of first and currently only 3D printed pill that has been approved by Food and Drug Administration. So a drug called levetiracetam, which is an anti-epilepsy drug, has been commercialized as Spritam by Aprecia Pharmaceuticals in the United States. And it's an orally disintegrating tablet, which is prepared by binder jetting. It's a kind of 3D printing technique, which 1,000 milligrams of drug loading, which is unusually high for orally disintegrating tablets. The reason that disintegrating tablets is prepared by 3D printing is that the process itself gives the tablet its uniquely porous microstructure, which allows it to readily disperse in oral cavity and release the drug at that time. The way they make this drug is by making a thin layer of the powder, which is the excipient, and then on top of that thin powder layer, they 3D print, they 2D print one thin layer of a binding material that when touches the powder, it fuses the powder particles together in the shape where it was printed, as you can see on the right hand side. And that's how one layer is printed. And then on it, they spread another layer of the powder, and then print the liquid ink, which contains the active compound, the actual drug. And that process is repeated until the whole pill is completed. I'll show you a short video that shows you what I'm talking about. Just a moment.
Introducing Zip Dose technology, the first and only drug formulation platform to utilize 3D printing. This proprietary technology allows disintegration in seconds with just a sip of liquid, taking the oral medication experience to a whole new dimension. Let's see how 3D printing takes shape. Medications are formed by a layering process. First, a powdered pharmaceutical blend is deposited on a single layer. Then, a binding fluid is precisely deposited to bind the powder blend and prepare it to adhere to the next layer. This process is repeated several times. The result is a solid yet highly porous oral dispersible medication. Zip dose technology enables high dose loading of up to 1,000 milligrams, a wide range of taste masking capabilities, and rapid disintegration in seconds with a sip of liquid. Let's take a closer look. When liquid is added or sipped, the bonds break apart, allowing thorough disintegration for ease of swallowing. Experience a zip dose demonstrator for yourself. Call Aprecia Pharmaceuticals to...
So we've seen that this drug has been 3D printed, but it's neither personalized nor it has an interesting novel shape. So we can see that it has been 3D printed for an entirely different reason. It has been it is mass produced, but by process of 3D printing, simply because it gives it a unique microstructure that is highly porous, so that when put in mouth, with or without a small quantity of liquid, it just crumbles upon in the oral cavity completely and then releases the drug. So this further proves the point that microstructure is very important for some of the healthcare applications. When you talk about microstructure of 3D printed products in healthcare, the hydrogels come in handy because they're a very convenient class of material for a wide range of applications. For these reasons, hydrogels are quite water-rich networks of hydrophilic polymers, and they're able to store and release mechanical stresses. So they're a bit rubbery and shaky in nature. And this high water content and soft texture, they allow hydrogels to partly mimic living tissues. As we know, living tissues are very water rich, at least about 50-60%, or 80-90% maybe. They're water rich, and also they're soft. So hydrogels, when made with correct mechanical properties, can mimic living tissues. They can also be loaded with hydrophilic compound, obviously, because if water soluble, any active compounds will happily dissolve within that. But even hydrophobic compounds can be loaded in a hydrogel, given the presence of right functional groups or surfactant micelles or lipid particles, using which you can make a very complex loading system, where more than one components are loaded within a hydrogel. Also, they're often stimuli responsive, the kind of stimuli that you find in physiology, for example, specific pH or salt concentration, or presence of enzymes and temperature. They respond to these stimuli by swelling, or by contracting, or by softening, or by even decaying. They're called so-called smart hydrogels that respond to their external environment, and we can leverage the capability of their responding to these parameters by giving a customized release or that application, so we can use that to our advantage. Also, hydrogels can be prepared from biopolymers, especially polysaccharides, which improves their biocompatibility, because these are natural polymers that are often used even in food industry. So they're biocompatible, they're also biodegradable, and because they're polysaccharides, they're also highly sustainable materials. So it improves the carbon footprint and in general, the sustainability of these 3D printed parts. Now, what you want to print is what ultimately decides how you want to print as well. So for hydrogels 3D printing, the main three techniques of choice are have been shown. The first technique is extrusion, which simply means pushing a material out of a nozzle to make a thin line out of it, so that you can draw a 2D shape using that thin line, and then the further layers that you keep building on, you can create an entire object. Of course, continuous filaments are deposited by this technique using mechanical stress, just mechanical pressure. You can print materials with medium to high viscosity using this. The speed is relatively faster compared to other 3D printing techniques, and the resolution depends on the nozzle size that you're using, which is somewhere between 100 to 1000 micrometers. Then you have inkjet printing, which also partly covers the binder jetting that we saw, that the 3D printed pill just a few slides ago. It deposits small droplets by piezoelectric pulses. So the unit of deposition is much smaller compared to extrusion. And because the orifice is very small, you can only handle low viscosity liquids using inkjet. The speed, because of the lower, smaller unit of deposition, is much slower compared to extrusion. But because the deposition unit is slower, the resolution of printing is much higher, from 10 to 100 micrometers. And then you have somewhat of a middle ground, which is pneumatic jet, which also deposits small droplets, but because it uses air pressure in addition to piezoelectric pulses, it can handle low to moderate viscosity of liquids. And because the droplets are bigger, the speed is intermediate, somewhere in between extrusion and inkjet. And the resolution is slightly lower than that of inkjet, but considerably higher compared to extrusion. So it also depends on what you're trying to print, which printing technique you choose. This is some work that we have done at University of Birmingham. We took an open source 3D printer that prints plastic, and we replaced the plastic printing component that we also made using 3D print, that we designed and made using 3D printing. And that syringe pump can hold a syringe that can contain a kind of paste or a gel, whatever you like, and it can 3D print in exactly the same manner as a printer would print plastic. I'll just show you a quick video on that. So what you're looking at right now is printing a hydrogel, 3D printing of a hydrogel that, of course, didn't have anything at that time, only had a few colors, but it could have a drug molecule, or it could have stem cells embedded within it. So it's sort of a precursor to organ printing or tissue engineering. We made this, we rather modified this printer in a cost-effective way. These are some examples of the materials that we've used on this printer. It's xanthan gum and gellan gum, and these are the materials that often have viscosity and the mechanical strength to support their structures against gravity, because they have sample spanning, all-pervading polymer network. But you can also use materials that melt upon deposition, and when they cool down after printing, they retain a shape. So you can see the shape fidelity that I think makes it worthy of a candidate for applications such as tissue engineering and drug delivery. Here is another set of polymer that we printed. It's carrageenan. It's again an edible hydrogel that was loaded with 30 milligrams of thiamine, and we investigated the in vitro release profile of thiamine by this hydrogel, and we found that after about 6 hours, 80% of the thiamine gets released, and that of course depends on the temperature of the release, but at the bodily temperature, the release is 80%. That was extrusion, but we also done work on encapsulating water droplets into oil droplets by inkjet printing. Of course, I know that this one is not a hydrogel, but it gives very similar properties to a hydrogel. So because inkjet printing is an effective way of depositing smaller droplets with specific size at a specific place, we can utilize that to encapsulate water droplets into a film of oil droplets in order to make semi-solid water in oil emulsions, but without any emulsifier. And imagine you can add active components inside the oil or inside water components. So they can be used in personal care or in transdermal drug delivery applications, as well as nutraceuticals. It can also act as a moisture resistant barrier if you're considering wound care, for example. So you can sort of 3D print films like this on a patient's wound, and then use that for wound care as a moisture resistant barrier. So this is how we printed. So it's a 20 micron orifice, out of which we printed oil and as well as water droplets to make that into a film, a thin film. And you can see that it's a very well-defined array of water droplets inside an oil film, and you can even have different active compounds loaded in different layers. So you can make a successive, for example, drug A gets released first into transdermal drug delivery, followed by drug B, and it really depends on what applications you can think of. And the middle ground in between these, the extrusion as well as the inkjet, which is pneumatic jet, we have made a hydrogel using that, which could have potentials for drug delivery. The pneumatic jet is like inkjet, but can handle high viscosity liquids because it's driven by air pressure. And there are different nozzle sizes available, and so you can inject, you can produce different sizes of droplets, as well as you can deposit liquids used with high viscosity, and that also can contain particles or droplets or even cells. What we made is a hydrogel from surfactant polyelectrolyte complex. So surfactant is a molecule that has both hydrophilic and hydrophobic parts, but it also has a charge, in our case, a negative charge. And then we have a polyelectrolyte, which is a polymer, a long chain molecule, but that has positive charge spread across its entire length. So when these two come together, they make a supramolecular complex called surfactant polyelectrolyte complex. And because the surfactant micelles can house a hydrophobic molecule, which are of which there are many drug molecules are hydrophobic. You also have polyelectrolyte, which is a hydrophilic molecule, and so it's as a hydrogel, so it can contain hydrophilic molecules as well. You can load within them, and because these charges depend heavily on pH, if you adjust the pH, for example, if you target for a specific pH along your GI tract, you can engineer these complexes in such a way that they will release the drug in that part of the GI tract. Because they're triggered by that change in pH. So what we did was to print one layer of the polyelectrolyte, which was fungal chitosan, as one layer, and the other layer of sodium dodecyl sulfate. It's a surfactant. So we printed alternating layers, ink A followed by ink B, ink A, and ink B, and then we have been able to make this piece of hydrogel, which is strong enough to be lifted using a pair of tweezers. And we found that this hydrogel contains an interesting microstructure, as you can see using confocal microscopy. So it contains microcapsules, which are nothing but the droplets that were deposited by a pneumatic jet, just frozen when they were made into a complex. And these microcapsules, because they contain surfactant, they have potential to encapsulate drug molecules which are hydrophobic, but they can also be used to encapsulate cells. So you can see the structure of microcapsules. The green part is where the complex is, because that's where the fluorescent dye has been loaded.
Mr. Somil, Mr. Somil, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you just conclude within another 5 minutes?
Yes, I'm on the last slide, literally last slide. Yeah.
Sure.
So
thank you.
Yeah. So the microstructure, also seen using the X-ray tomography, reveals the presence of the microcapsules that was never observed in this material using other manufacturing techniques. So it can create a novel microstructure that could be used for interesting applications. In conclusion, the macroscopic shapes of course, you can create novel macroscopic shapes using 3D printing, but you can also create a novel microstructure, which could be loaded with a variety of active components for tissue engineering, for drug delivery, and everything. How the microstructure is made is a complex function of what you're printing, the formulation, and how you're printing, the technique. And when you develop formulations with edible materials, polysaccharides, it enhances biocompatibility, and also it's easier route to obtain regulatory approval, because these are edible materials to begin with. These are the references that I've used for my presentation, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Saumil, for an excellent talk and also to showcase various facilities available in UK.
Thank you.
And thank you very much. May I invite Mr. Vinod for his talk.
Very good afternoon, all of you. Dr. Jawahar, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll be sharing our experience at the Institute in Trivandrum. Basically, the Institute is an institute of national importance with the status of university, which was established by an Act of Parliament in 1980. And we have 3 wings. One is a hospital wing where it's a tertiary care hospital, cardiac and neuro care. And we are working in the wing where biomaterials and medical devices are happening. And there's a third wing called AIIMS Center for Health Studies, who is doing research on public health. Chitra has developed various medical devices in the past, and which are commercialized, starting from the India's first blood bag, an intrauterine device, mechanical heart valves, vascular graft, membrane oxygenators, hemoconcentrators, then recently TB detection kits, ventricular assist devices, vein viewers, and we are also working on ventricular assist devices, then aortic stent grafts, flow diverter stents, etc. 3D printing as a technique where Dr. Pradeep and Mr. Dilip was given an introduction. It's basically additive manufacturing. So not going into the details. So the basic procedure in that is basically you start with a CAD computer design and convert that STL files and load it. Then the machine will give you the prototype, and we have to do certain cleaning and post-processing on that to get the desired surface finish. There are different methods which has already been discussed. So coming to the main topic, medical applications. I would like to classify it into four. One is medical device development, where we are working on, where we use it for prototypes for visualization and functional prototype for evaluation. And another application is 3D bioprinting, which can be used for evaluation of drugs and devices, which can even be used as a functional 3D printed organs. And in education, we can have better understanding of the anatomy by 3D printed models. And the direct clinical applications, as we have already discussed, we can have custom made implants, which is suited for the specific patients and for treatment planning. And there is a lot of application in dental as well. In medical device development, if you see, it starts from the concept. Then based on the concept, we develop a design. These days, we usually use computer designs. Then based on the design, we do simulation studies or in silico studies to fine tune the design to come up with better and better designs. Then based on all these, we develop or fabricate the prototypes, and that prototypes will be evaluated for its safety and efficacy in vitro or in vivo or ex vivo evaluations. Then we go on for preclinical, and then later on for clinical evaluations. Only then we can go for commercialization, marketing, and then finally we have to do post-market surveillance and all. So for the today's topic, what is of interest is one is the prototype fabrication and prototype evaluation. That's where the 3D printing has helped us a lot. Conventional prototype fabrication process is machining or milling, as we have discussed, the subtractive process, where we remove the excess material from a big block and finally you get a desired shape. That process is normally time taking, and it's also costly for per piece cost, because like you are actually wasting a lot of material which are removed from that. And there will be limitation in geometry. Like if you basically if you want to make a specific shape, machine will be subtracting components from the bulk, and the way the tool is going into the bulk and coming out, so based on that there are certain limitation in the geometry. And if you want to have a specific shapes and all, we have to at times go for multiple components and then assemble it together. Like what is now shown here is a prototype of a blood pump which we have developed. From this one itself, we can see that it has a stainless steel component, two stainless steel components and many plastic components. Because of this limitation in the geometry which can be made by conventional machining, we had to go for this combination of plastic and metal. Otherwise, it will be better if we can go directly with the polymer material. So this limitation of geometry is there, it is costly and it is time consuming. And mass production techniques like molding, casting, etc., it may be low cost per component, but you need to have mass production, like large numbers are required, which may not be feasible at the time of prototype development in the laboratory, where we are actually developing multiple device designs and evaluating the performance of each one to come up with a better design. So mass production technique like molding and all cannot be used in a prototype stage laboratory development, where we have to rely solely on conventional prototyping till maybe a few years back. Recently, we have started using 3D printing. The advantage of 3D printing is like you get the prototype option within few hours. Previously, like the conventional machining route used to take a few days or few weeks to make a prototype. Now with the 3D printing option, we can get the same in a few hours time. Or the advantage is like normally in one day we come up with a design, and in that evening if you start printing the geometry, next day morning when you are coming back to the office, that prototype will be on your table for evaluation. Previously, it used to take weeks to get a prototype ready and evaluate. So the next day you can actually evaluate the prototype, and next day if you want it, you can change the design and then change the design and come up with a better design the next day. So it saves a lot of time, and because since it saves a lot of time, we can actually have more models which can be tested, thereby having better and better designs, better and better models available. And another area where 3D printing helps is design which are otherwise not possible or extremely tough with conventional machining, as we said earlier. Complex geometries, very thin parts, etc., which can be done with 3D printing. But there are certain disadvantages. One is the cost. So at present, the 3D printing is not a widely used technique. It's still picking up momentum. So the cost per machine and the cost of material is much higher compared to conventional machining at the moment. But we are sure that as the number of users increases, the economy of scale will be there. So if a large number if they can produce, the cost can still come down. So in the future, we are sure that the cost of 3D printing and 3D printed components will come down drastically. And at present, we also seen that surface finish is not as good as the machined one or the molded one. But we can actually post-process it by polishing or painting and get the desired surface finish.
Vinod, we lost you. We are not able to hear you.
I don't know what happened to Vinod. Just for.
I think we lost the connection. Just 1 minute to see if he can coming back.
Or whether those who have any questions, you please comment, put it in the comment box. It is easy for us to gather it. The time is very constrained. Just we can go for questions. Whenever he will be back, we can transfer to him. Jawahar sir?
Yeah, are there any questions by anybody would like to ask now before by the time Vinod will join? Any questions to Mr. Dilip or Mr. Saumil or Mr. Pradeep?
So you can unmute yourself and ask.
There are some questions regarding this spinal implant or spinal, for training purpose, whether we can make some spine model surrounded by gel. There was some question. So
Yes.
Mr. Dilip would like to answer that.
Yeah, so we have a multi-material printer which can print parts of different hardness, but not a gel, because gel isn't really restricted very hard by volume. It can move around the place. So we don't print materials with that loose. However, I'd like to understand more about this application, and maybe we can speak about this offline. I'd like to understand exactly what is the need for the gel over the spinal part, because I heard it's for training. So maybe we can solve the problem in a different way.
Okay.
But we can definitely print models of spine, and as you've seen in my presentation, I've shown a few pictures as well.
So can you quickly tell us which are the hospitals in the country and which are the organs we have developed?
So we have sold AIIMS Rishikesh and AIIMS Patna. These are places which are using our color jet printers, and AIIMS Rishikesh is also using our SLS printer. SLS printers basically prints nylon parts. These are parts used for braces. AIIMS Rishikesh and Patna are using the color jet printer to print medical anatomical models for student education, for patient education, and also for practice surgeries. Because, like I said, this material is looks and feels very much like a bone. So this is already being done. As far as medical implants go, there is titanium. There are many cases here in India which are being done. They use our software to convert the DICOM data to the 3D model, and then they use our software, which is Freeform, to convert to actually use that the 3D model to design the implant. There was a case in Erode recently. It was a very complicated case. It was a case of a cancer jaw, and that one operation had needed three implants, one down and two from the top and the side. And all that was done in India itself, and it was a very successful case.
Any drug delivery systems, any drugs developed in India?
Not that I know of by our company. We are mainly focusing into 3D printing of parts. We do have a bioengineering lab which is working on these advanced things like bioprinting, but that's in the US right now. We don't have a product yet, but there's lots of research that is that's already going on. So in the years to come, we should be in that market as well.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello, this is Major Guru Prasad here from PGI Chandigarh. I'm sorry I'm voicing out my question because it's a little difficult to articulate it in writing. So, Mr. Dilip, excellent presentation. And I just wanted to understand, while you spoke about osteo-integration, I was just wondering, where are we headed when it comes to organs or internal organs? Say, for example, if we are trying to develop a 3D model of a heart, which needs to be used as a transplant or as a replacement. Now, how close are we to reality in terms of exactly imitating the muscular fibers or the vasculatures? Is there any work that has been done to that effect? It's a naive question, but I just wanted to understand.
No, it's not a naive question.
Thank you.
It's a very valid question, and we are quite close. So the issue with organs is actually not the organ tissue. So people have been printing things like livers and pancreas for a long time now. The issue with them was keeping those organs alive. So what you need is you need the vascular system inside. You need blood and the capillaries and everything else, right? So now, while people could print organs maybe 8-10 years ago using stem cells and everything else, now the research has gone so advanced that they are also able to print the blood system inside. So they can print the capillaries and the blood vessels so that the organ that you print stays alive. And that is where we are going now. So it's not a distant thing.
Can I interrupt? Mr. Vinod is back. Can you, Vinod, can continue this presentation? Thank you.
Am I audible now, Dr. Jawahar?
Yeah.
I'm sorry for the technical delay. I don't know, somehow it got cut in between. Yeah. I think we were talking about why we were using 3D printing on our facility. In a project for development of a centrifugal blood pump, it took 2.5 years to get a reasonably good design, which we started using 3D printing for a later project of a ventricular assist device, which we could attain the same results in 1.5 years. We could also go for multiple design iterations because since the time requirement is less, we could go for more and more design so that we could come up with a better design. And the realization was completed. What we can see on the left is a prototype which we have made with a conventional prototype like plastics and metals together. Finally, a similar design when you wanted to make with 3D printing, you can see that its entire thing is made up of a single plastic component, so that in a manufacturing wise is also it is easier for making a prototype. And in our facility, we have two polymer 3D printing systems. One is a FDM fused deposition modeling system, and second one is a polyjet based technology. Basically, if you look at the requirement of polymers in this medical application, if you want to directly use it for medical application, it should be biocompatible. There is a battery of tests according to ISO 10993. So if you want the material to be directly used for biomedical application, it should meet the tests according to the like what to say, type of contact to the body and the duration of contact. And the surface finish also, most of the time we need a very good surface finish for, especially for blood contacting devices and all. And the waviness, everything should be better, and the temperature stability, resolution should be very fine. For micrometer resolution should be there. And there are applications like medical implants, surgical planning, orthotics, microchannel development, etc. You can see in the picture at the bottom left one tissue valves model, which we have printed using transparent material, so that the researchers could take a look at that, feel, and then modify the design. And second picture is a first experiment of making a 3D printed part of a heart model. And the third one is an orthotic device design. And the fourth one is the micro channels made on plastic strips for a PTINR measurement system. These are all done in our facility here and used for design iterations and evaluations. And precision assembly fixtures. Then for functionality check, like when we develop different prototypes, we have to assemble it together and see whether it's functionally working. So we developed, like we can have print multiple components of the device, put it together and evaluate. Then this one is a enlarged model of a coronary stent for visualization of the stent structure actually. And in metal 3D printing, we don't have one in the campus, but we have utilized the facility from CTTC in Bhubaneswar. Dr. Jawahar may be knowing the place.
Yeah.
So they have a big tool room and also an additive manufacturing facility for metal, where we could print the titanium components for our ventricular assist devices from their facility. That is shown at the bottom. Like, we could get the designs done in, we could get the prototypes done from CTTC Bhubaneswar, then post-process it in our facility.
I think we have one delegate in this audience from CTTC.
Oh, very good. Oh, very good. Very good. Yeah. Okay. So here also the material should be, the material biocompatibility is an issue. Then surface finish, everything is important. There are applications like orthopedic implants and also in artificial organs like ventricular assist devices or other metallic implants. Even we can even directly print customized implants. And there are certain design considerations which we should keep in mind when we go for additive manufacturing. One is we may need a support material at places. Like if you want to build some structure like this, like a cantilevered structure, which cannot be directly printed as such. So we may need some support below the cantilevered portion or extended portion, something like this. We may have to print some support structures here. And at the end of the manufacturing process, we'll have to take out, then remove all the support materials, then polish it or paint depending on the requirement for our purpose. So this is one picture which is available in the internet, which shows how it is directly printed. Like picture at the extreme right hand side of the picture, it will be how the print the item printed from the 3D printer, metal selective metal laser sintering. So it will be like rough surfaces with these are all the support structures. So we have to remove all the support structures and then finally polished it to get the desired surface finish, what is shown on the left hand side. So like you get an unfinished surface, you may have to polish it to get a better finish. Coming to clinical application, actually, there are various clinical applications like already mentioned by Mr. Dilip. You can actually appreciate that the CT shown in the left hand side, and then the 3D printed model based on that on the right. You can really appreciate how we can get the real feel of how the anatomy is, and then understand the anatomy and plan the surgeries. Basically, the 3D printing will help us to radically improve and simplify 3D spatial understanding, enable decision making. Then it enables in-depth surgical planning. Then surgical anatomy correlated precisely with the 3D models which can be done, like implants can be suited on the 3D model of the patient geometry, patient anatomy. Then it can actually reduce cardiopulmonary bypass times, and excellent clinical outcomes can be achieved by 3D printed model of the heart and the associated blood vessels. If you can get 3D print and then plan the surgery before starting the actual surgery, so the surgeon can finish the surgery in a faster time, and also do like can perfectly plan and do a better surgery. There are various examples shown. Usually, there's another example where the suitability of a biventricular repair was possible, but without a 3D printing technique, the surgeon would have gone for a univentricular repair. So the patient could be, the patient can have a better quality of life with the 3D printing technology. And it can also use for surgical planning and then planning interventions, like thoracic aortic aneurysms or trans aortic mitral valve repair. So all these cases where we can actually have the 3D printed model and then plan the procedure and then do the procedure, so that we get a better outcome. And we can also use it for a study of flow dynamics, like blood flow in the arteriovenous malformation or aneurysm regions. We can 3D print the actual geometry of that and do the flow visualization studies with that, so that proper surgery or proper treatment methodologies can be planned by the clinician before venturing into it. Then we can also have custom-made implants. We actually in our institute has not gone into it, but I just wanted to show. We can even have designed porosity, as Dr. Dilip already mentioned. Like we can have various porosities in different part of the implant, so that you get a better osseointegration. Custom-made implants are possible, and we have a facility in our hospital wing where Dr. Anup, who is also joined as a participant in today's webinar. Dr. Anup is the one who is taking care of this facility and doing this 3D printing in the hospital wing applications. In case of more doubts in that, Dr. Anup will be able to handle that. And another facility in our campus, the biomedical technology wing campus, is 3D bioprinting, which can actually directly print cells along with the bio ink, creating a tissue. Currently, we are aiming at toxicity evaluation of drugs and devices with this 3D printed constructs. Directly printing the organ or organ parts is the next step. It looks really futuristic, but it is becoming a reality. Many parts of the world, different people have come up with 3D printed organs, but it still has to be matured, but it's becoming a reality. So what our first aim in our campus is like 3D printing for drug and biomaterial evaluation. So animal evaluation for toxicity of drugs and devices is a major step in their development process. There are concerns about animal ethics. So if we can actually reduce this one, it will be better. And we all know that it is inevitable part of medical device or drug development to do an animal evaluation now. If we can replace that with a 3D printed tissue constructs, like for hepatotoxicity studies, if we can have a 3D printed liver directly, that way, if we can have different organs printed and the toxicity can be studied on that, we can reduce the animal usage, or in the future, we may be able to avoid animal usage completely. And people are trying to develop various 3D printed organs as such. And different stages in bioprinting are one is a development of a bioink with hydrogel with growth factors and nutrients included. Then the bioprinter development is another area, like extrusion of the inkjet paste or laser base or whatever is the technology used for the printing. And then another area is the cells, the viability functionality of the cells. It's really a multidisciplinary area. There is a team working in BMT wing developing two such organs. One is a 3D printed liver constructs, and the second group is working on a 3D printed skin constructs. And they are actually different, the subgroups working in tissue-specific bioinks for biocompatible hydrogels for this particular applications. We'll just skip. So desired features of 3D bioprinter are like it should be low shear. The shear will damage cells, so it should not create much shear compared to the commercial 3D printers. And the build temperature should be controlled less than 40 degrees Celsius, and otherwise there can be cell lysis. Then multiple material printing capability should be there. Temperature control, automatic tool changes for options should be there. And it should work in sterile environment, and there are certain hydrogels which require UV curing so that UV should not damage the cells. So that's another design consideration. As somebody already mentioned, like there are attempts in developing organ printing in various universities. So in the future, we may be like in 3D printing, 3D bioprinting area, if we consider if any patient requires any organ, in the future, we may be able to get the organ directly printed and use it for the patients. So that may be the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinod, for an excellent presentation, showcasing some of these areas of strength at Sri Chitra Institute. And I think we have a quick, any questions if you have anybody, if any delegates, we can have a quick question answer session.
Dr. Jawar.
Yeah.
Unnikrishan.
Yeah,
Dr.
Unnikrishan. Yeah, Unnikrishan, please. Unnikrishan is an anesthesiologist and my close friend of mine. So yeah, please, Unnikrishan, please go ahead.
So thank you. It was a very wonderful presentation by you all. So I have some queries. I am a practicing a pain physician also. So I depend on ultrasound. So like for the spine ultrasound, for the training purpose, what we do is we put it in the water bath. So and do the training of needle insertion into the spine. And then most of the people try with agar gel. But agar gel being from the bony tissue, after 4 days, that agar gel starts stinging. So we cannot reuse it because that is a bone product. Then I got it called ballistic gel, which because when ultrasound is passed, the rays should go inside the tissue also. So from the ballistic gel, it was possible, but it is very difficult to heat it and put it over the spine model. So is there any possibility by 3D printing an ultrasound training model can be created so that the beam travels all through the material, any material? I saw that regarding the gel you had mentioned, that's something called gel. So is it a bioproduct like from the bone or completely non-bio product which we can reuse so that I can use a spine and cover it with that gel and reuse it for my ultrasound purpose?
So if I could just ask a question, I mean, I'm trying to understand the application here. You want to print the spine as like a proper bone, okay? And then you want to surround it with some kind of a gel. And the purpose for that is you need to be able to use an ultrasound to act as if that's a human body, and then use an injection in the right place, right? That's the application.
So, you want the surrounding gel when we put, and when we keep the ultrasound, I should see the spine which is kept it inside.
Okay, so you don't want to actually print the gel. You may just want to print the bone. but you want something which can be used to surround the gel to give you that effect. Okay,
Yeah,
I understand.
the body effect. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So nothing comes to mind, but what I will do is I will speak to my team and explain this problem and
Okay.
see if if you are facing this problem, I'm sure somebody else in the world also has been. So maybe somebody from my team has worked with somebody else to solve this problem, and I will get back to you. I have mentioned my email address in the comments in the chat.
Yeah,
If you
I
could
saw
just
that.
drop me a line with your contact information, and then that way I can get back to you.
Okay, because the thing is that surrounding structure around the bone should not have air shadows, because air shadows
Okay.
always will hinder with ultrasound waves. It won't allow to travel down.
When you say air shadow, is there a
Should not be there.
minimum, like a minimum thickness of
Thickness
an
it's
air
okay.
bubble?
No, air bubble should not be there at all, because
At all.
otherwise I used a sponge. What I tried was dip the sponge in water and I kept it over the model, but I couldn't see anything because air shadow reflects everything. It doesn't allow to go down. So basically the surrounding gel which is there, like we had used that normal gel, we eating gel also, with that it is possible. We can see. But problem is that that gel is made up of bone. So after third day it starts stinging. We cannot reuse.
Okay.
So that
So the gel which you're using is basically actually a human product. I mean, not a.
no, the
I'm
usual
using the
gel
wrong term, but
no, usual gel we have for food, for custard and gel that we use, no?
Yes.
Same gel. So that is later on why I just inquired why it is stinging. Then only I came to know that the gel is made up of bone.
Oh.
The gel we are having, that is actually made up of bone. I didn't know that. That's why it was stinging. Then I got a ballistic gel from my sister who is in US. So that was because they're in US only it is manufactured. Because what they do is that they make a human model of that gel and they shoot it on it to see the penetration of the bullet. And according to that, it is designed that this bullet can penetrate this much, this bullet can penetrate this much. So that ballistic gel, I got it from the US, but that is possible, but it's a cumbersome thing. We had to heat it, put it over the bone, then do it. Bone set. So I need a surrounding structure, as you said, a gel model, and the bone which can be 3D printed. So then ultrasound training can be done. So everywhere what they do, ultrasound and needle training, they cut a chicken and keep a chicken bone there and ask the volunteer to do their needle training.
Oh.
So if you can get that, anything is possible for ultrasound, because ultrasound needle training, you need it's a learning curve is big because you don't have a tissue to learn. So
I understand.
so the gel surrounding the bone or anything model, it would be great.
Mr. Saumil, do you have any comments on this?
Yes. I was thinking that maybe some blends of, let's say, carrageenan, which is a food gel, could be used in this. They are heat set. So there are blends of gel, for example, gelatin gelan or gelatin carrageenan or carrageenan only. You can make a formulation, and then what you can do is you can heat it so that it becomes liquid, and then immerse your bone into it, and then let it cool down. So it just, when it sets, it just completely surrounds it. And if you add some biocide into it, it will not be subject to microbial degradation for a few days. And you can, depending on, I know you want, that to have bodily feel, so you can have really hard gels as well. For example, if you use about 7 to 8% gelatin and 3 to 4% of carrageenan or gelan, then you can get a really hard gel that simulates the bodily texture of, that is, I'm sure will be closer to the ballistic gel is being talked about.
So
these are heat set gels.
Yeah. So Dr. Unnikishan, you can take up this email addresses of both of them and please send a mail to them.
Yes, I'll put my email address into chat. So yes, we can certainly talk further on this.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Hello?
Yeah.
No.
Can speak. Okay, disconnect.
I think
you can unmute and ask. If you have a question, you can unmute yourself and ask.
So I think there are no questions. Shall we conclude then?
Yes.
Okay. So I think we had a wonderful session to give a comprehensive picture of the various aspects of medical application of this great technology of 3D printing. And I hope that in the days to come, years to come, even in India, we are going to have great developments on this 3D printing. Let me thank the panel of speakers, Mr. Pradeep, who had taken this great initiative of organizing many of the industrial partners, and Mr. Dilip, who is actually doing the groundwork in India on this 3D printing. Thank you, Mr. Dilip, for this wonderful session and joining us. Dr. Saumil, who had brought up his thoughts from this Birmingham and his work. Thank you, Mr. Saumil, for joining us. And also Mr. Vinod, who has talked to us from Sri Chitra Shubhantram. Thank you, Mr. Vinod. So, and also Mr. Joss, who is the organizer. So I think I'll hand over to him. Thank you very much. And it was a wonderful session. We had a around 70 plus participants who were very keen to listen, keenly listening to us. Thank you very much. Mr. Joss, over to Joss.
Yeah, thank you everyone. It was a wonderful session. We have overshot the time, but I am sure that all the presentations were able to open up a new world of 3D printing in front of us. A very detailed, informative and inspiring ones. To sum it up, I don't have anything else to say other 3D printing has already arrived. Actually, it is no more a future technology. It's not about the future. It's already been arrived and it's been proven. So it's all of us has to look into it in detail and see that, okay, how can we resolve the challenges in front of us, and how can we effectively use this for more innovations. And representing the Future Schoolz, we are always there to support this journey. We are into the 3D printing related training, customized training course. We are conducting courses, and we are also into 3D printing consulting, and we will be able to bring in more experts from around the world to bring in more innovation and more opportunities in the field of 3D. So that's all about from us actually, and thank you everyone, especially to the panelists, and many thanks to Mr. Jawahar, who took a lot of pain to organize this with a good, brilliant audience. You have organized, and see that there are a lot of decision makers and like director level people and professors. So it's a very enlightened audience. And thank you to you and to AIIMS Bhubaneswar for supporting us. That's it from my side. Thank you, everyone. We are ending this session here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.